Welcome, and thank you for joining The Logic of It All with your host, Reverend Gary Essex Sprunger.
Hello. Glad you could sit in on the conversation. The last time we were discussing how we first see another person by the labels we put on each other. We use those labels as guides on how we treat or ignore someone we meet, or even how we relate to our friends. A label is the overriding category we use for others instead of the greatest common denominator we have, which is we are all, each one of us, a child of God. Can't deny it. We are all children of God. We don't just happen. Of course, there are many factors in our makeup, like what we inherit from our parents, grandparents, or even great-grandparents. And what we inherit is probably how their chromosomes were affected by a virus illness, diseases they contracted. What they then pass on from generation to generation is who we are. We need to know so much more about our genetic health, how the illnesses that we contract affect us. More dedicated research is needed, don't you think? We discussed this before, and there's been some interesting developments in science recently, using artificial intelligence to analyze blood samples. It is believed that we can detect the onset of Parkinson's disease as early as 7 years before we can detect it now. Artificial intelligence can become a marvelous tool to help us know our human bodies better. We need to do that. It is a must, and I believe an important key to lift us out of the primitive quagmire of killing one another. The more we know and understand about the human body, the more we will truly appreciate human life. The Surgeon General is declaring the firearms violence in America to be a health crisis. Let's make a clarification, Mr. Surgeon General. All killing is a health crisis. People are not killing one another by guns alone. Singling out guns as the problem is missing the facts entirely. It is the person pulling the trigger that is the problem. It is the parent battering or drowning a child that is the problem. It is the illegal immigrant that rapes and kills a child that is the problem. It is the wielder of the knife that is the problem. It is the driver of the car running down people that is the problem. The problem is that human life is not respected, Mr. Surgeon General. That is the health crisis. Human life is not regarded as being important, let alone sacred, to be inviolate and not harmed in any way. Yes, it is easy to cover shootings in the news. As it is now, every day, the news is filled with all manner of killing a human sacred life. Now we humans need to use artificial intelligence intelligently. Make the most of it scientifically while controlling it from developing misleading information, political bias, and false information. Artificial intelligence can greatly improve our lives. And when one thinks of it, put it all together. From the beginning of the universe and the creation of the earth, going through all the bombardments of asteroids that brought us the minerals, metals, chemicals, and elements for oxygen and water, all that precise building the earth to support human life by the creator of it all. We may be an offspring of our families, but firstly, we are here because of a creator, creating everything, past, present, and future. And in the scheme of things, here we are. All of us, children of God. If not for God, we wouldn't be here. And in our lingering primitiveness, we have the audacity to label each other. We will not fully appreciate what is meant by the sanctity of life until we really know that each human is a sacred life. Not sacred to be worshipped sacred, but rather sacred as being inviolate, meaning no one can harm or hinder a sacred life from reaching their creator-given potential. We need to marvel at how marvelous the human is. And when you give that some thought, we are all sacred lives. It takes your breath away. Treating each other as a sacred life has so many possibilities. It blows the mind thinking of turning our creative capabilities to improve living for everyone. Better knowledge of our genetic weaknesses and the ways to treat them before we fall victim to whatever flaw we have inherited or caught. The end of senseless killing of each other, a sacred lives. Other. Think of it. 46 sacred lives shot, 11 sacred lives killed, Memorial Day weekend in Chicago. Logically, to be killing one another is not why we are living here on earth, the place the Creator designed and built for human life, sacred life. The Creator designed the human to propagate our species, not to be killing. How ridiculous is that? We may not know what the will of God is, but we can certainly see what could not possibly be the will of God. And killing each other is logically not the will of God. And to use labels on people to justify the mistreatment or even killing is ridiculous, if not evil and sinful. But we are doing that labeling every day, categorizing people, using their actions and how they appear to us as their label. All the Pride Month and Recognition Month and whatever group month serves to only divide us more, keep us apart from one another by the use of labels. And that is creating unrest in our country. Some say it's by design, in the steps to create instability in our country. Not only does it weaken the country's nationality by creating divisions, it also, and more importantly, keeps us from recognizing and bonding with each other as children of God, not just in this country, but internationally as well. And those with evil intent do not want that. As to the use of labels in Scripture, Jesus at the well in the 4th chapter of the Gospel of John was traveling in Samaria and had no means to draw water, so he asks a woman for a drink of water. She is the one that uses the labels. You are a Jew and I am a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink? Well, Jews did not associate with Samaritans then. Jesus had asked a woman as a child of God, not a Samaritan woman, but as a child of God. And in the 10th chapter of Luke, after 2 of the Jewish faithful walked past a man who was robbed, beaten, and stripped of his clothes, a Samaritan not only dressed the wounds, but took him to an inn and made sure the man would be cared for. The Samaritan rose above the labels of Jews and Samaritan, went beyond nationality and belief identification, and showed mercy for a man, a child of God in distress. And Jesus asked his audience, who of those 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers? The response, a no-brainer, was the one who showed mercy. And Jesus said, go and do likewise. An example of the greatest commandment. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. And the next is equal to it. Love your neighbor as yourself. We need to end this labeling that is our weakness and used to advantage by those who wish to keep us divided in this country instead of being unified as the children of God. More about the teachings of this man, Jesus, and an interesting archaeological discovery next time, which we are out of now. And besides, the coffee's cold. Have a good rest of your day and sunshine tomorrow.
Thank you for following The Logic of It All and the Hope for a Christian Reformation. If you have followed since episode 1, you're welcome to the website, thelogicofitall.com. Join us again for much, much more in The Logic of It All.